So good morning, everyone. We are live. We are recording. So if you need something to say, just know you're being recorded. It's my disclosure for today. So thank you all for attending, for getting out in the cold, if you're with another building. We do have quite a few people that are on Skype with us, and this, as I said, this Skype is being recorded. It's something new for me, so thank you, Trish, for the recommendation and for setting this up for me. I'm hoping this works out for us in the future, so that way we can reach out to more people. Maybe have less meetings. Maybe you can sit in the comfort of your offices if you want. If we get all comfortable with this, it's totally fine. But I appreciate you showing up today. So we're going to talk about the new evaluation tool that we're rolling out in the Pride system for our January evaluations for the 2017 calendar evaluation year. So a couple things to talk about. So as you know, in previous years, at least last year and I think the year prior, this was a web-based system, but it was a little labor-intensive for the web programmer. It wasn't very intuitive, so we're hoping that by rolling it into our Pride system, we can utilize some of the other features of Pride to make this work, to make the system kind of a bit more intuitive, a bit more friendly for all the users as well as the managers, the reviewers, the directors. That is the intent. I think now that we have this in Pride, don't worry, this probably won't look like this 5 years from now, 10 years from now, maybe even 2 years from now. Because we use it, we can enhance it, we can make it better, we can make improvements. But I think we've got a good start on that this year. So what is our start this year? So a few things of the improvements that I like to start off with the improvements, get you guys excited. Okay. So managers do not have to enter their employees into the system this year. If you recall last year and in previous years, you had to go into the old system and tell it who you were evaluating. Who are my employees that I need to do this for? This new system, because it's in Pride, it can talk to and utilize our organizational charts that we already have in Pride. That's also then how this system routes, but we'll get to that in a little bit too. So I'm hoping everyone finds like already, wow, okay, we're done. That's a great improvement because last year that was huge. Because the programmer also had to tell the system who the supervisors were for them to have access to it. So it was all very manually intensive to do this. So it will already know if you're a manager. It will already know, what employees you need to do. So huge improvement there. The other thing that's built into this new system is there is a proxy option if someone else should be seeing the ratings first. So ultimately in the org chart, maybe you have the responsibility over 10, 12, 15 people, but you really want your field manager or something to be the first level reviewer. You can proxy them and have them be the reviewer first, and the system will then come to you as the manager for approver. That's something new this year that was not available last year as well. So the system is designed to find you as the manager or whoever you are for your managers, but we can set up a proxy in this system too. A little bit more flexibility for you. The other thing that's new in this system is there is an exempt option. So last year you kind of had to email somebody, you had to tell somebody, if you felt like you didn't want to do an evaluation. Why would you not want to do an evaluation? If you have a civil service person that's still in their probationary period, you have to do the paper form for the staff human resources office. So you would exempt them from this system this year. If you have somebody that is resigning or retiring and they're leaving, at the beginning of February or something, you're like, do I really need to do an evaluation? If you feel like that's not appropriate, you can exempt them from this system. If you have someone on an NONR that they're leaving, you can exempt them from this system. I do have the ability to run an exemption report. Don't be surprised if I ask you, if I don't know, if I can't, see it in some other way, why are you exempting this? person. Is there something I don't know about? But there is that feature as well. And then the other thing that'll be a big change for everybody is that this system runs on a workflow. If you're in HR transactions or anything like that, you know how the workflows already work. This workflow follows the individual transaction. So we no longer have this, okay, the evaluation is open for people to do their self-evaluation for this month. Doesn't matter if you get it done in 2 days, your manager cannot see it until, February. And then we would close that out. The managers would have their review period, and then we would close that out and lock that down. And then it would go to the director like by March. This system is all individually based. So if you as an employee get your email saying the system is open, so on January 4th or 5th, the system is open and available for you to do your self-evaluation, for you to add your materials, etc., and you submit that, your manager is going to receive an email instantly saying that you've submitted it, and then they can go in for their review. So how does this help us? I mean, obviously there's some managers that hated to wait that long because they're faster, than what the system is. So that's a huge difference for this system versus last year's system. A lot less manual programming to make those processes run too. Any questions about those changes? You guys all remember that last year's, so you can kind of compare it to some of the changes this year. Any questions so far? No? Good. Okay, so we have a recommended evaluation process, and don't worry, we're actually going to show you the tool today. I'm going to run through a few things, but I just wanted to kind of give you an idea of what the process is going to look like. So every employee is going to receive an email after the first of the year with their access to the tool. This tool is live. If you guys want to go in and look at it later, you can. But don't be surprised. Don't get ahead of the game if you want to go back to your office and look at it, because it will likely go away, because the programmer and I have been running through some tests. The HR office crew has been running through some tests. We will likely wipe everything out to start from scratch, and we're still kind of testing the system to make sure we don't have bugs in it as well. So feel free. I'm not going to tell you to not look at it. I've provided you the link here so you guys can actually go see it and see what it looks like. But I'll show you that today too. So you're going to get your email at the beginning of January, and it's going to tell you to access so that you can one, perform your own evaluation, your self-evaluation, which is how we start our process. But you're also, if you're a manager in this room, you're going to see your list of people that you're going to need to do your ratings on. So that will show up on your screen. I'll show you that in a bit. So then it's going to go on, I need my glasses. So then once you do that, the email is going to be sent out. Your people are going to do their self-evaluation. They're going to submit that evaluation. You can also save it for later. You can add your attachments. If your manager has said in the meantime, hey, this is great, but I also want you to attach your CV. I want you to attach your work plan. I want you to attach your other documentation, just like what we had in the old system. You can still make that part of your individual management experience for the evaluations to have that information included. So once the employee submits, the manager will automatically get an email for the manager to review as well. They'll get an email. You'll review those evaluations. You will provide rankings for those evaluations. This is the overall. I'll give you the workflow here in a minute. And then it'll go to the director. Once the manager approves it as well, it'll actually go to the director at that time for the director to see it. Now, evaluations, they fall short if you don't meet face-to-face with your employees. So this system is still designed for you to meet face-to-face with your employees. So you design all this. This is just for documentation purposes. It helps you a little through the workflow. So after that is done, again, the email will be sent that it is ready for a meeting. You guys will actually select and enter a meeting date as managers. You will select your meeting date, enter that meeting date in the system, and after you meet, you can both actually re-comment make changes if you need to make changes. If there are significant changes, you'll have to let HR know. Um, and then you will put you will both acknowledge that this is final. So, any questions? I'll go ahead and show you the workflow on that, and hopefully it'll show up a little bit.
I do have a question.
Yes.
You indicated that you, as an employee who's filling out their portion of it, that we can save it for later.
Mm-hmm.
Does the manager then see
No.
how we've started?
Nope.
Okay.
They don't see it until you submit it.
Okay.
So you can work on it, save it, work on it a little bit more, save it. That's fine. So here's what the workflow actually looks like. So these are the emails that are automatically built into the system. So the whole system is designed with email reminders already in place as it routes through the process. If you guys are used to an HR transaction or anything like that, you automatically get your emails from the system, right? Same thing. It's designed the same way. So HR is actually going to start an email. We actually can customize and start our own email to begin with. When we do that, what we're going to tell managers, and I actually have a specific handout for the managers for later, when we send out our email at the beginning of January to say it's open, if you're a manager, that is your opportunity to send a follow-up email to your staff, and you know who your staff are because you can look at your eval tool and it will list them. And that's when you should probably say, okay guys, I want it done by this date, if you can, and I want these materials included, and maybe you even say the form has goals in it. I want one goal to be a professional development goal, and I want a long-term goal and a short-term goal. Or maybe you'll say, I want to meet with you regarding your goals before you finish your self-evaluation, because that's going to be on here as well. So you guys as managers, you can customize your approach a little bit. The system is not going to dictate how you meet with your employees, talk with your employees, and what materials you want as your supplemental materials in this. It's entirely up to you. So once they submit, yes?
Could you make that a tad bit larger? We can't see any of that.
I can try.
It's the bottom right corner.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Sure, thank you. So again, Renee, as you can see, you can save the drafts all the way down. So even your manager can save drafts before they submit if they're doing comments or reviews. So the employee starts the evaluation, the goal setting, adds the attachments, they submit it. If you selected a proxy, the proxy will receive the information and can add their comments and rankings and things. They will submit it. If you don't have a proxy, it just skips this step. The manager then edits, adds additional information, gives the rankings and comments. They can save or submit. And as you can see down the side, everybody's getting an email for this process of when the next person's responsibility is. Once the manager submits, the director sees it. They can add comments or review. They can even return it to the manager. The directors will not get an email every submission. We wanted to make it a little easier on them because we didn't want them to get 300 emails. They'll actually get a weekly email that says, hey, you have stuff in there to review. Not that they can't go in it every day they want to, but we just felt, Kevin, unless you want 300 emails.
Yeah, add that.
So we kind of thought that might be a little easier. So they're special. They get a weekly email just telling them that there's stuff in there. So then the director actually finalizes it. And so when the director finalizes it, that's when the manager gets to go back and there'll be an email again. And the manager can then enter what we call a release date. So if you guys kind of remember in the last system, they had a release date as well where everything was kind of locked down and nobody could see it until it was released. So the release date meeting date essentially is when the manager can go back in and place a date on the main screen. That's when it will be available for you to view. We're hoping that's the same day as the meeting date, which would be nice. And then there's an acknowledgement. So then the manager and the employee will meet. Final comments can be made. And then essentially they both acknowledge. Does anybody want to see this system? Okay.
Can I ask a
question.
Yes.
Maybe I'm getting ahead here.
That's okay.
The performance metrics,
Yes,
is that part of this?
it will be.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, sort of. It's an aside. I mean, it's going to be a, not necessarily an attachment, but it'll function like a supplementary material. So in case you guys don't know what I'm talking about, he asked about the performance metrics, if that's going to be a part of this. So on Thursday, we're going to talk about the performance metrics tool. It's mostly for scientists, applied scientists, research scientists, anybody that's considered themselves a scientist. And what that system is going to do is that system is designed to really work a lot like a CV, like somebody's resume.
But it won't take the place of information there's submitting here that people are submitting?
Not unless at some point your manager is confident enough with the person, like maybe next year, that they really like the performance metrics and they might tell you that you don't have to submit your resume anymore. You know, that they might elect to get rid of it.
We typically do like an accomplishment, an annual accomplishment.
Yeah.
And the active signature takes the place of that.
Yes, I can see it taking the place of that. So essentially what's going to happen, and it's not built in yet, but if you have submitted a performance metric for your year, that will have a button that'll be available on the main screen for the manager, the director, and for the individual to see. So they'll be able to access it from the personnel or from the evaluation tool back to the performance metrics. So the performance metrics is going to have things like listing of publications, classes you've taught, presentations you've given, special events or symposiums you've attended or have had, you know, involvement with, brochures, maps, mentoring, student employment, you name it. The idea behind that, and I'll put in a teaser then for Thursday, is that if we have that into our system, it's really beneficial maybe for you guys, but honestly it's really beneficial for PRI because that's going to give us the ability to aggregate that information. And specifically, like we get asked a lot, like how are we contributing to the university? We would be able to aggregate that information and say, well, we had 56 members of our, of our population teach, 102 classes over last year. That we could aggregate that information. Right now, we don't have that available to us, but that's something we would love to be able to do, to share with the OVCR, to share with the university leadership, to show our contributions and our collaborations. Anything else? So this is the tool. Glamorous, right? I mean, if you're familiar with Pride, this should look somewhat familiar to you. So this is my view as a manager. So as you can see, I've got 4 employees. And I have them right now set up in all different stages, so you can kind of see what's happening. So Hannah hasn't started hers yet. Lori is all the way done through the director and everyone. She's awaiting the review release date for the employee. So I actually have to put in a date for her that I want to see her. So she's all the way through. Megan, I'm awaiting the proxy because I assigned her a proxy to look at her evaluation. So I'm awaiting Lori Walston. So your proxy is listed. I'm awaiting her to do her submission first and her comments, and then it'll come to me, and I can do my own as the manager. So I have people all in kind of different stages. I have this other employees under me, and what is that? If you're like a second or third level manager, you're not evaluating every employee underneath you, right? You're just evaluating your team leads or something like that, your section heads. But it will list everybody else that's under you. But you're not responsible for those necessarily unless somebody proxied you. So that's why we split it up. You have your immediate people that you need to evaluate, your team leads or something. But then all of their employees will also be underneath here because ultimately, you're in that line. So I don't have any. So it's blank. Then on this side over here, that's actually on the top is where you would start your evaluation. So that's how I would start my own evaluation. So if you don't have anyone that you're evaluating, this side's pretty much going to be blank for you. and I'll show you that in a little bit. I can switch screens on you here. But if you do have people that will fill up, but then you're going to start your evaluation. You won't have probably all of this. I mean, obviously you won't have the administration functions, some of the reporting functions and things that I do. The HR mailer, that's how we can actually set up a customized email to go out to everyone, and the exemption report. But that's what your home screen is going to look like if you're a manager. So let's go ahead and let's look at an evaluation. So I got the email that I need to start my evaluation. I'm going to ignore what's going on with my other people for right now, and I'm going to start this evaluation. And that, yeah, that looks right. So the evaluation is actually very short, very open-ended. Oh, and I can just add goals. Okay. So it really only asks a few questions, but like I said, it's all free text. So if you have additional documents as a director that you want somebody to do an additional document, you can do that. We just made this system and designed it much like last year. The form's really not significantly different. We just left it really open-ended. So there's only a few questions. List what you believe were the key elements of your job during the performance review period. List special contributions that you feel you made to your unit during the performance review period. List any notable obstacles that you encountered in accomplishing your job responsibilities during your performance review period. And then add any additional information which you, in which you want to be considered in your performance review. That's really it for your evaluation part. Now, you as a manager can ask people to customize that however you want. If you want 3 items listed in each box, or if you want an additional material, you guys can do that. This is just, this is a repository. This is a document area, but we wanted to allow as much customization as you wanted. There is a little bit of a new feature, and that is the goals. Everybody should have goals. Everybody needs a goal, right? This is something that the executive director, Dr. Ryan, really wanted this year. He wanted us to kind of see some goal activity. So we left the goals blank, so you just have goals. I added another goal. As you can see, you just hit, just like all the other HR tools, you just hit the plus button and you can add another goal. So you just add those goals. What's interesting about this system is next year, when you go to open this back up and you want to review, it's gonna automatically on your form, it's gonna have a section where it's gonna say new goals and it's gonna have old goals. And your old goals are last year's goals. And you can then comment on those, say, hey, I met my goals, I exceeded this goal, or I've gotten this far to this goal, and then it'll have new goals listed as well. So so next year it'll actually populate, it'll roll in the previous year's goals so that as managers you can review those. Yes?
Will we be able to access this form throughout the year?
Yes.
So we can remember what
Yep.
our goals are?
It'll always be open. Yeah,
Okay.
It'll always be open for you guys to get to it. And then at the bottom is where we save the space, for files. So, choose a file. If you want to choose a file, you add it, submit another file, or add another file, add a work plan, add a CV, add whatever you want. That's just like last year. And then you submit or you save unsubmitted for the person. Yes?
Go back to the top.
Sure.
So the top 2 boxes, they're really vaguely.
Mm-hmm.
In your mind, what sort of things would go in the first box as opposed to the second?
So list what you believe were the key elements of your job during the performance review period. So that's not a bad time for you to go back to your job description and say, what was I supposed to be doing? And did I accomplish those things? So when it says, the key elements of your job, so for HR, it's about successfully completing searches, and it's about, process improvements, that we might have things like that that are on their job descriptions or things that they might do. So that really is truly talking about what your job is and am I doing it. The second one is list special contributions you feel you have made to your, that's kind of, okay, what else have you done? Have you created something new? Have you improved upon something? Have you gotten a significant award that you didn't really think that you were going to get the previous year? Have you picked up another unit? Did you reorg and you were, that you captured 3 or 4 more other employees to be responsible for? Has that been a change? Those are some of the things that I would expect to see in those boxes. Doug?
So the goals.
The goals.
If I could see why we shouldn't be able to delete one at a certain point. If you leave one blank and you save it to go away. You know what I mean? Is there a way to get rid of one if you say you're saving midstream and it's like, oh, I listed 6 goals and really I don't.
Yeah, I think you just hit the minus button and it'll. There's a minus button.
Okay.
Yep. There's a minus. There's a plus at the top to add, but there's a minus. There's a minus button. Yes.
Well, if you go back at the top. So one way to look at the top boxes, or at least the first one,
Mhm.
it might be the perhaps mistake. I just put in elements of my job description. So I first signed, write grant, publish papers, things like that. To me, it seems like for the year as opposed to, so in other words, I wrote this big grant this year. I published these 3 papers that year.
I don't think that's a bad idea.
I mean,
It's your evaluation. It's a self-evaluation. So to me, you should be touting your abilities and your accomplishments in this, along with what your work is. Yes, Kevin.
So I wanted the opportunity for people in water survey and ISTC. That's a great comment, and I would want to not I wrote papers. That's great. I mean, you're right. We're journalists together.
Yeah.
So I think in order to those people, they need to be quantified and they need to be identified to really create value. And I would also assume that when you're talking about that top one, that's something that shouldn't be a surprise. So I just kind of a thought. I'm assuming that you've been in contact with your people, so that you're not going to put down there. One of my key things doing this year was, washing these bottles, and we weren't supposed to be doing that. So again, I'm hopeful that there's not going to be shocks to your supervisor. Yeah. So, there may be situations, you want to touch base with your supervisor on, hey, here's what I'm putting in. Is that, is that in line with you? So. Also, too, I don't want you to have to duplicate your work. So if you're a scientist and you're going to be utilizing your performance metrics, maybe in that area, yes, you cover everything, but maybe you don't need to list every publication you did or something, because maybe in that area you'll put, I've also attached, or, I've also completed and submitted my performance metrics, which will be available, and you can see a full listing of my, publication materials or my grant activity, et cetera, et cetera. But highlight it, what you've got in this area. But then, point out, I don't need to repeat it all. I've filled out and completed my performance metrics for the science sector. So is the performance metrics generally something that we can attach, or is it just linked to it?
It's a link to it. Yeah, it's going to be a link to it. So if I go back here, I don't have one, but if you look on the far side over here, the performance metrics, that will actually, if you've done one and submitted one, there'll be a button there.
So will a supervisor be able to see summary information that can be viewed?
They'll see the entire performance evaluation in the full screen. Yep, they'll see it just as you see it, and they'll see the full list.
Okay, I'm talking about the metrics.
Yeah, they'll see the full.
So that'll be a button that'll open up another window that'll show them.
Yep. So let's go ahead and take a look at somebody else's. So Angela, so this is assuming, so this kind of follows, the track process. So this assumes, Angela's already submitted hers. The manager has reviewed it. It's waiting acknowledgement. So it's at that very bottom stage. So we've already met. So the manager has acknowledged I put in additional comments. Then Angela actually would have received an email that just said, hey, you've had your meeting, list anything else. Your manager might have made comments, and you need to acknowledge that as well. So Angela on her screen will just go in. It won't see it on my screen. Actually, let me change her. So Angela actually looks like this. So it says view evaluation status. So she's going to click that up. And as you can see, much like you guys are used to, yeah, don't you love it? Her element was surviving the implementation of Pride. When I wanted to wring a whiner's neck, we love those. we had a lot of fun with this, actually. So as you can see, so Angela, so her thing, what she can see is this has been all the way through the process. Alan served as the director for them. It's been all the way through. I acknowledge, so it's received to her. So she would need to actually hit her acknowledge button here and hit that on the big screen. On a mute.
We thought it was the 10 o'clock alarm, every Tuesday.
Oh, okay. Good. So that's what so that's what Angela's screen would look like, so that she knows when she gets the email, she's going to go in and she's going to see, oh, I'm going to view my status, and it shows it's back in her routing queue for her to do something. We need to do that. That sounds like an alarm. I don't hear it.
You hear it better at 4.
Oh, okay. That's hilarious. So that's sort of what your screen would see, that what you would see as an employee. So let's go into somebody else's. So Hannah hasn't started hers. So this is what she would see. So she doesn't have any employees, so her side's really going to be blank. But she would start her 2017 evaluation. In future years, by the way, the navigation is also going to have, viewing your previous evaluations, and the manager will be able to see previous evaluations too. Who else do you want to see? What's that?
Well, any of the historic evaluations.
No, they won't. We'll have to still go into the old systems to see that. Oh, there, I hear it. So this is Lori's view. If you remember, I set Lori up as a proxy for Megan. So even though in the org chart, Lori doesn't necessarily have anyone, or that the person was assigned to me, I proxied it out to her. So besides viewing her own evaluation status, which that would give her own, she suddenly now has Megan in her queue to do her work. So you would just click on the highlighter there, awaiting proxy evaluation. And so essentially what this is doing is this is giving her, this is the manager's view or your proxy's view. And then this is where they would submit in that line. So let's go over this a little bit, because I want to show you then, we've looked at the details of what it looks like when you're in the self-evaluation. Let's look at what it looks like for the managers, for what they would see. So obviously I don't have a lot going on here because I just put test, test, test. But for the managers or your proxies, they're going to see the full text of what you've entered for the open text areas in the top. Then we're going to have our performance ratings. So we still have the performance ratings. They have been revamped this year, and we're going to talk about those for a little bit. Can everybody see those okay? No? I've got sheets for you, so we'll cover those in sheets. And like I said, you can always look at it later, too. Control plus. I don't know if that works on my machine, because I have a Mac.
There's being on them, right? When you did that,
It's Command plus for Mac.
Whoa. There any way? Okay, how about that? Wow. Okay. Okay, that's really bright. Okay, so the changes this year, and this is gonna be a kind of a cultural shift for all of us, is we all want the top rating, right? We all want the A, we all want just to be the top rating. Where this is a little different this year is we believe that all of our employees should be at the top rating, right? We believe that the common ground is an A. Guys, this is an A. Significant, strong performer. This is the gold standard for all PRI employees. It's not a C, that's the A. You are meeting goals, performing a great job. You had a consistent, strong level of performance, and it exhibits itself through positive results. You make, that's your projects happen, contribute to our mission, and enhance the reputation and move us forward. Why did we do this? Because there was the A here, and then it was sort of like the B, C, D, E, F. And it's like, we didn't have anybody really in the bottom. If we did, they probably would have been addressed long before an evaluation. So we wanted more room to talk about those people that are maybe over the top this year. And maybe you're not over the top every year. But this is the A. So then let's talk about the other side first. The needs improvement, the at-risk contributor. This year the performance falls short of expectations, needs improvement, working with your manager, you're going to build a plan. Then you have the unacceptable poor performer. You're likely, I'm going to assume, have already been in talks or something before this is going to hit. But this is the performance and critical aspects of the job is inadequate. Immediate improvement is required. Working with your manager, an immediate improvement and communication plan will follow if it doesn't already exist. So here's back at our A, the significant strong performer. I'm guessing 90% of our people should be strong performers. This is what makes us tick. But you're going to have those, and maybe not everybody will, but there's a handful of you out there that knows you've done some amazing stuff this year, or your people have done some amazing stuff this year. So you're going to have the outstanding role model. The performance was consistently above expectations. Performance and productivity went above and beyond this year. And then you've got that extraordinary, exceptional achiever. Your performance was consistently meritorious and above any expectations. You're a creator and a leader. You broke new ground. Your work efforts were remarkable. So I hope you guys can kind of see where we're going with this. This is the bar. This is our standard of where we want to be. This is for something unusual. The next two is really for something unusual that's happened. The top one, or the top two, it doesn't mean that only those guys will be considered for promotion next year. So don't look at it like, well, if I only give them a significant or strong performer, they're not going to be available for promotion next year. No, I look at it as anything above here is still promotion worthy. So don't think you have to give somebody extraordinary, exceptional achievement. Now this is still designed. How can I get this off of here, people? Doug, how do I reverse it?
Hit the back button.
Try command line.
Command line.
Okay, not that much minus. Doesn't let me scoot over. That's what's weird. It's a Mac thing. Okay, sorry. So we still apply the rankings to different areas because some people are still better at different areas than others. So there is still an overall ranking, but we did want to give the managers an opportunity, like they really shine in a certain area, and they got, the significant contributor. But in this particular area, they went above and beyond. So it doesn't always have to be everything. So there are unique areas. So there's still a knowledge-based evaluation. Oops. There is still a judgment-based evaluation. We have a little bit of examples in there. There's still a productivity component. And again, you can do each one. And then there's also a safety. Does not apply if it does not apply. Organization, multiple, juggling projects, goal setter. Again, if these don't apply to your people, it's okay. Don't feel like you have to assign a ranking. It does not apply. Comments? Professional relationships. How well does the employee work with others and team members? Reliability is still one. Supervision, if they supervise. Otherwise, it does not apply. And then you have your overall performance. Now, another thing that's different this year than in previous years is every single one of those areas has a comment box. That's different. We didn't have that before. So you can actually comment specifically on each one of those areas if somebody, like if somebody's done a great job or something like that, or has really set the bar crazy high, you can comment on each one of those areas. That was not available before. Yes, Kevin.
Again, for water survey and ISPC people, I know in previous years there was a question people said for safety does not apply. That is unacceptable. Safety is important for water survey and ISPC. It impacts every job, so I don't want to see it does not apply. So there has to be a rating there.
That's something. Dave.
I didn't notice when you were at the top of this, but is there a comment box for overall?
Yes. You mean for right here, the overall?
Oh, so that's meant.
It's at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, it's at the bottom. The overall is at the bottom. At the top, yeah, it's okay. At the top, I just listed what all those ratings are, and then we go through the specifics, and then the bottom, yes, the bottom is the overall performance. Right there. So for the goals, too, the manager can add comments to each of the goals. So your employee has put goals in. Maybe you've talked about those goals ahead of time, so you know what to expect on that. The manager can actually do those goals. The manager can actually edit those goals as well here. So if you guys, decide to talk about it even, before, this is just a documentation. You guys can have conversations throughout this process with your people. You don't have to wait until the final evaluation if you're working through these things. It's okay. So the manager can make a comment on each of those goals. So perhaps you say that you have a goal of, increasing your publications or something this year. Maybe the manager might make a comment that says, something, I'd like to specifically see 5 peer-reviewed publications this year. That they might say, they might put a specific number on it or something. That's just a crazy example. But you can do that there. Yes?
So work, similar to other workflows, Prairie is allow for the record kick back for those edits. So the employee writes the goal,
yeah.
Which you said, then the manager writes in a different box how to amend it. How do those then get mashed?
If you have to do that, we don't have an option right now. Well, there is on the workflow, the director can return it to the manager for changes. But if you have to do it, you can contact HR and we can override the routing queue if you absolutely have to return it. We're hoping that with the manager's comments in there.
Yeah, I'm trying to marry your comments with have that conversation, have that back and forth, but so we're doing all of that back and forth before we really get into the workflow.
Kind of, yeah, a little bit.
Okay, the workflow is designed to facilitate that conversation.
It's really designed to document the process, but the process has to be your own, or is allowed to be your own.
Can the manager edit that goal box? Or
when you're in the manager, before you do it, the manager, it's an open text box right now. So I could override this right now.
Okay.
So I can go, include, and then I can submit that. So you can override it.
The employee won't know that.
They wouldn't know that you did it right here. I mean, it's not going to have a note back to them at that moment. But, I would either tell them that, or they will have an opportunity. And if you drastically change it, I would say you need to have a conversation with your with your person before you do that. But otherwise, there is the opportunity after the meeting for comments to be made and acknowledgments to be given and stuff at that time too. So there is multiple plays. But essentially, I've done this system where it can be returned, resubmitted, be returned, be resubmitted, it's a nightmare because essentially what it does is it replaces the face-to-face conversation that you really just need to be having with your employees. If they really are off base with the goals, you know, when you have this in front of you, or schedule a time and say, hey, I looked at it. Can we meet real quick? I'd like to sharpen your goals. And then you can do that. But I've been in places where a similar system has been used, and it's sort of like they never actually communicate. They try to make the system do it for them. And we didn't want to do that.
Amy, I have a question.
Yeah.
If you were to submit and you forgot to attach something, and you know it's one of the things you fast finger, faster than your mind. Can you retract it and then come back in and edit?
So if you submit it and you don't get it,
yeah, let's say you submit it and then you said, well, I
save
forgot to, I prematurely hit the submit button. I forgot to put it in a document or attachment or something. You want to go back into edit as the employee.
okay. Let me check on the workflow on that, and I'll get back to you. The question, if you guys didn't hear it, was if I submitted it as the employee prematurely and I forgot to add some of my attachments, can I get it back? I believe so. I believe it's in your routing queue when you actually go into your, so let me see. Let me go back into Lori's. So if she reviews her evaluation status, she's too far along. Megan, how far along were you on this? I need to find somebody that's still early in the process. Whoops. Is it Lori? No, I don't think so, because she's too far along. Is yours waiting for Lori? Are you just M Weeks?
MK.
Thank you. Don't you like it how I have the option to kind of switch around? Okay. So Megan, let's just test this system out. So it looks like she can get right back in until she gets kind of locked out when it starts to get approved. It looks like she should just be able to add another file. Huh?
Can you edit any of the stuff in there?
No. Nope. You'd only be able to add your attachments. So I'll double check on that if you want a little more flexibility in that. I'll see what we've got for that. I don't want to go back too forth, but but you can still add attachments. But you can only do it. It looks like you can only do it up until the manager and the director approves it. Then it kind of locks it out. But I'll do some more checking on that for the workflow to see if.
Yeah, I think that would be fine. My concern is a lot of times when you send an email, you forget to, as soon as you push the send button, then you forget, oh man, I didn't attach it. Same thing with this. If you have the ability to just come back in, edit or add, that's fine. And once the manager looks at it, or directors look,
then it frees.
Yeah.
Yeah, once they approve it, you wouldn't be able to edit it. But it looks
I think that'd be fine. I don't think you'd want people going in editing after the fact.
Yeah, no, you wouldn't. But I'll see if I can get, before it goes on and gets approved by anybody, I'll see if I can do if you've already submitted, I can see if you can unsubmit. That's essentially the option you're looking for before any approvals, if you can unsubmit.
Exactly.
Sure. I can take that. I will take that back to my programmer and see what we can do for that. Does anybody have any questions?
I have one here.
Yes.
Has there been any discussion on adding targets or following metrics in that goal? That goal space still seems fairly vague to me.
It is very vague, and it's designed to be very vague. You would get individual directions, or you would give individual directions as a manager to your employees about what you would want those goals to look like. Because not every manager is going to have the same types of goals listed. For my HR staff, I might say I need a short-term goal, a long-term goal, and I want a professional development goal. And then, in the short-term goals, I might say two of them have to be, or one of them has to be related to a process improvement or streamlining something that I want you to think about. What are you involved in with that? But for other managers, it could be a variety of things. I mean, this tool is for everyone to use, and so you can customize it as you want. Like I said, you will know who your employees are. So I would suggest that as managers, you start to think about, okay, what do I want included in the evaluation from my employees? And you might want to craft an email, and you can do it before the system is open, and just say, I have an expectation that I want to see your CV attached. I want to see, a work plan attached if you guys are still using work plans. I don't know what else you
Are those work plans and the stuff that you did?
I have a follow-up, sorry.
Or like, to get the actual.
They're in the old system.
Right, but we actually have to go back and get the document in there.
Yeah, you'll have to go back and get it. We won't have it here. So, but yeah, then you can attach it here. Yes.
Sorry, I do want to make sure that we're not trying to get key performance indicators in the goal section. I think those are two different things. I might have a goal, or my supervisor might have a goal for me for a year that looks very different from what she or he might use to evaluate my progress year to date. Is that clear? Is that a clear distinction?
I don't know why it would be different though. I mean, to me, that would be one of your goals. If it's something that they want to evaluate you on next year, that should be a goal.
Okay.
Yes. But the goals, like I said, everything in this document is very flexible. It's very open. It really is a document repository that the process has taken place, and it's an area for you guys to be able to go and hold on to your stuff. Hopefully, this system will be around a little bit longer than the previous system, so we won't have to keep having these old archive systems. And I think we'll work on enhancements. We will work on is there a way we can put previous years stuff in for a reference. Right now, those are two completely different, systems, so I don't know that that's an option. But like I said, the next year, it'll look a little bit different, because the next year's will bring up those previous goals for you to comment. Did you meet those goals? So there'll be a whole new section included. So it'll be the old goals, and then you'll have to set new goals again. So it'll kind of build on that. She's thinking.
I know. Well, the hard thing is the consistency, people not being consistent as managers in the evaluation criteria. Some people, and I think that's where, if you're using that, I mean, that's the ultimate goal, and this is going to be a repository. And I know you're not saying, well, that doesn't mean that they can't get a promotion and stuff like that. But the hard part is training the managers to evaluate using the same criteria. I like the changes. The wording changes because they need to be done, but people need to follow those. So if you're saying most of the people need to follow in this middle category kind of a thing, then people need to actually do that.
Yes.
And that's the hard part, I think, getting across to everybody. And everyone needs to be managed if they don't do it.
I'm sorry?
And how will that be managed if they don't? Right.
I mean, I think that's a conversation then that I need to have. I mean, that's an educational resource. That's an education, and that's me going out and talking to the directors. And that's you guys that are in the room sharing with other managers, other team members that This will, we're going to put this online as well. It's being shared. But it's an educational process. Trish and I talked about this months ago, didn't we? We're like, we knew it was coming. We want everybody to be that gold standard, that A, and then it's a cultural shift from what you're thinking. So what do we do to keep managers from just putting all 5 employees up at the top? If I see that, if your director sees that after a good education, I'm going to expect them to kind of go, hey, wait a minute.
I think it's the top. It's the 2. It's the second 2.
Yeah.
It's
I think it's an educational process. I mean,
it seems like if designed solely to capture outliers and allow no distinction whatsoever between the vast majority.
I don't think so. I think so. There was a lot of conversation when we had this preliminary meeting about, do we do 5 or do we do 3? Trish is rolling her eyes. Do we do 7? There was all those things, like, so when you're talking about the outliers, that's why we have maybe 5 instead of the 3. Trish.
There's a question from the chat about how that training for managers will take place, this cultural change. Are you going to have more training sessions or maybe more one-on-ones with managers?
I'm going to have one-on-ones with managers. I'm going to be doing a few emails to managers. I actually have a supplemental material that I have not showed you here that is specifically for managers. And I can actually bring that up if you guys want to take a look at it, if I got enough managers in the room.
It's going to be communicated to employees too, so because the wording was very similar to last year, so check that out. Are they going to?
The wording's actually not like last year. It's way different. It's way different than last year's. It's a total, yes.
Yes, I would. My employees would say,
I think it kind of gets down to the morale issue. People are like, well, I'm only satisfactory.
All I do is I do my job.
Yeah, if you notice, this does not say satisfactory.
I know it doesn't. I get your point. I'm just saying some employees, so this needs to filter down all the way to people.
So this is the material that's going out to, let me do read mode. So this is the supplemental material that's going out to managers, and I will email this to all managers and stuff, and I do have printouts here for you guys to take with you. But essentially, we talked about the rankings, here, that this is the bar here. And then you have the other 2, top outliers, maybe this, step 1, step 2 outliers, and the lower step 1, step 2 outliers. Then we talked about goals a little bit too, and how maybe you guys might want to set some of your goals. So we call it like job description goals. Are you actually performing the elements of your job description? Project goals, behavioral goals. Behavioral goals is something a lot of people think about. I don't need to set goals. My people just do the same thing every day, all day long. Maybe you want to put in a behavioral goal, how things need to be accomplished. Do they need to strengthen their communication skills? Do they, those are goals too. Stretch goals are kind of your long-term goals. Maybe you won't meet them. Maybe you will meet them. But so this here, the rankings, that's where we reiterated that to the managers. I'll be sharing that again to all the managers. Probably doing
share
some.
That with all the employees too, because I think all employees need to know.
Yeah, I'm kind of thinking that these 3 documents that I'm showing you, I will probably actually put either on the web page, or I might even actually put it in the eval tool within Pride, so you can see it like literally as an attachment in Pride. Yes.
So where should to use the old term that nobody liked, but a satisfactory employee, someone who just does their job, nothing special. Right. They're a strong.
It's not nothing special. If you're doing your job and you're meeting your that's the thing.
My expectation for my employees is that they are outstanding.
That's it. I mean, if all your employees are doing their job and doing it well, and I mean they're performing their job and you have no complaints, they're a strong performer. They should be. There's no satisfactory word in this anywhere. Because satisfactory isn't enough for any of us. Yes.
So I guess the concern though is the next rating below significant strong performer needs improvement.
Yeah, it's a big gap.
You're strong.
It's a big gap. I mean, it truly is. I mean, you're right. This is a cultural shift in thinking. This is not A, B, C, D, E, F, and they're all even. This is, we expect everybody to be here. We don't expect anybody to be here.
I think what you also need to look at, there are several categories. Right. And they may have a category where they are at that very top extraordinary or outstanding, whichever one it is. I think you're looking at this as a single entity when there are several categories that you're going to be.
They might be a significant, strong employer. Thank you, Angie.
Yeah.
They might be a significant, strong employer overall, but maybe there is an element, down here, maybe 1 or 2 of those specific elements where they're kicking butt. Yes, Dave.
Since this is such a big change, I'd like to request that
not only do you attach this material on the webpage, but literally send it to everyone and point out that
Sure.
it's a big difference.
We can do that. I think
It's going to be
Trish and
not
I
necessarily negative.
Trish and I talked a while ago that we might have a little communication homework that we're going to be kind of pointing this out. But I don't see that. So to make your point though too about the difference between here, there is a huge difference between here and here. That's not the next. I mean, yes, that looks like the next step down, but that's a big step down. Those are not equally weighted, I guess I should say. I don't see them as equally weighted. Yes.
So most of the time, they can still be a significant strong performer overall, but in the individual category, you may put the needs improvement at risk. So it doesn't affect their overall, because they're still doing it, but there may be one area where they really do need improvement, and that's where you would probably, most people would probably get the needs improvement, is in the specific, not the overall.
Yes.
On this related front, in the previous system, when I would evaluate the individual categories, in order to then come to the overall where they are, I kind of like look at where all those dots were and kind of figure out where the mean or the median was and then pick that.
Yeah.
So like if I was 50-50 at the old B and the old C, I might lean to a B or lean to a C.
Yeah.
What I'm hearing in this new system, that unless there's an overall preponderance of the evidence,
If 5 or 6 are here,
and one or two,
is here,
with an overall right there.
Probably.
Right, but it's,
there's got to be like in all 6 categories, 5 of the 6 categories, there's extraordinary and exceptional achievement. That's where you go with it. Exceptional, extraordinary overall thing.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
I think so.
yeah,
I
but
think
it's
that's
like the 50-50. Usually you tend to go to the higher, not the lower.
In the old system.
Yeah.
Right.
Amy's reflecting.
Like I said, do not look at these. They are not weighted evenly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's the thing, yeah. I mean, two categories may be way more important than the other.
That's true.
So,
And if you've got 1 or 2 of these in the particulars that are down here, and that's heavily a part of their job. I mean, that's a heavy weighted factor, for your job. You might them as their overall come to here. Yes.
I think that's the first thing, but when you set up like a web page with all this stuff, there's so many guidance documents, goals now, and people and templates. If you go in here, there's a link that just will take you, so I don't have to search through the PRI blog and
I'll have to check with Trish to see if we.
I mean, you just put it on the intranet.
Yeah.
Well, the problem with the internet is kind of scary. You like all the HR things.
There's an HR page.
Yeah.
I think it's probably out there.
HR stuff.
Yeah.
So,
But I'll try to get my programmer to put this actually in the Pride. I'll see if I can get him. I'll see if somewhere down here I can have him put the pointer documents here. Yes.
Just building on what David had requested and kind of what Chris is saying, what might be helpful since, this is a small proportion of the general PRI population, if you could send just an email with just a link to the document you just had up, saying this is part of what we showcase. We want to give you an idea of a change in our mindset or what you described it differently, and just send a link to that, and then that way everybody has it on hand.
And I will also probably send that same link and format it a little differently to the directors, so that and hopefully charge them, Mark Yakuchi, and other managers. I'm looking at you. I need the managers, those that are in the room, those that are listening. I know that there's plenty of you out there. I'm pointing on you, and I need you to share this information too.
I mean, I just got that, but I just want to make.
Oh yeah, no, we plan on sharing it over and over. But yeah, if you can make it part of your meetings that you have over the next month, your staff meetings, your management meetings, anything like that, if you can make it a part of that conversation for the next month, that would be invaluable to us. Yes.
There's going to be an option to export or print records from this. we can have something on paper. And in addition to that, since the old system is retired, when you go in there, you've got to look at so many different pages. Is there an option in there where you can just save that record out as a PDF file?
You can print the old one.
So you can have a static copy.
Yeah, you can print the old one.
Save the PDF from the old system.
The new system, I mean, you can print it, but we can see if we can get a printable version. It'll be a little sloppy because it'll look like the form itself, but we'll see if we can get a printable version. But of course, you can always print out your attachments and stuff too, but there's not a single thing that will print the whole package out.
Yeah, that would be.
What's that?
It would be valuable to have the ability to print current evaluation on paper for.
Okay, I'll see if I can get a printable version.
Otherwise, you're looking over a manager's computer where other people's evaluations are. One missed click.
Yeah, I can see if I can get a printable version.
We have our face-to-face meetings. We're both staring at computers.
It happens. Yeah, we can. I'll definitely look into see if I can get a printable version for you. Something that'll shorten it up a little bit. All right. Sorry, guys. I got you about 5 minutes over. Is there any final comments or questions? Thanks, everyone, for attending. I love the turnout, and I look forward to any feedback or anything else that you have in addition. Thanks.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. Okay.
Thank you.
I like it.
Good.
I think it's going to be a lot.
Sure.
I like it. Working on it now.